Hello everyone, welcome along to It's Not Just Cricket. Matt in London, Azim in Dubai as ever, and we've got quite a few things to talk about this week. A couple of controversial interviews out there, in particular Liam Livingstone, who's no longer in the England squad, and he was quite vocal about that. We're going to get stuck right into what he said, what that possibly reflects on the current management and the England hierarchy. I'm going to mention the ECB reversal of their decision to stop the players from the Ashes doing any media. They initially didn't want the players to speak at all. Then they changed their minds. Ollie Pope and a few others have been speaking. So we'll talk about that. And we'll also just touch on the 100 too, because of course last week we gave you our opinion on the squads, but we're only halfway through the auction process. So we'll just quickly have a look at the squads and who we think has done the best job in terms of getting the squads together, both the men and women. But Azim, let's start with those Liam Livingstone comments, interview he did on Crick Info. And I'll just read out a selection of some of the things he said, just in case people are not aware. Basically, he was very critical of Rob Key, Brendan McCullum and the England management. And he said that he was told he cares too much when asking for coaches' advice. He said no one cares about players outside of an inner circle, and that he barely got a call from Rob Key and Brendan McCullum when he was dropped. He said that last year's Champions Trophy was the worst experience of his career. The role he was given was a waste of his potential, batting at 7 and being the sixth bowler. And he also said he doesn't miss playing for England one bit. He didn't miss playing in the recent T20 World Cup at all. Fiery stuff, really. What do you think about this? It's quite interesting, really. There are a couple of different takes on it. Is this sour grapes from a dropped player? We've seen it a number of times before, players getting dropped and then firing off about the management. Or does this tell us a bit more about the environment, and is that a bit concerning?
Yeah, for me, I think the latter. I think it'd be too simplistic, too easy to just throw this away at a player being dropped. I don't think there's any secret. I'm not a big fan of Liam Livingstone. When we discussed his comments in the summer, you saw some of his friends come back at me on our social media. And I talked about his character. So I think, but even looking at that, I think it'd be too simplistic to just say this is some player that's been dropped. I think it reflects very badly on the management. And it's not a one-off, is it? Behind the scenes, these are comments that I've heard from several players about this management, especially for around the whole coaching part. I know of a couple of players that at times want to train and, basically they're told to go play golf or go chill out, and they're not allowed to train in the way that they want to. And I think this management or this setup has been very set up for one type of person, one type of player, your Ben Stokes type player who, okay, I'll just switch it on when it matters type thing. But senior know their game inside out. Whereas if you look at young players, when they go in, they look decent players, but then they're not improving in the way they would you would expect them to. And young players need a lot. They need repetition. I saw Gareth Batty do a very, very good interview around all of this, and talking about elite sport and talking about tennis and Djokovic and Federer. So I think it reflects very badly on the management as a whole. And if I look at the comments if I look at the coaching comment, I think it's, from my experience of English cricket, it's where coaching has got to, where there's not a lot of coaching being done. It's like, we'll get someone in a good headspace and that'll sort it out. And it's a comment of a coach that's not actually a coach. And then when I look at the comments from Rob Key, bearing in mind when Livingstone, talked about it last summer, Rob Key went on the Sky podcast and said, well, he can give me a call. He's got my number. So it looks like when he's actually rang him, he's not handled it well. And again, I would go back to the fact, I think it comes across as someone that's never managed, in that sort of environment. So I think it's quite a damning, um, revelations about the management and the whole environment, who I don't think, from what I'm hearing yet, are completely safe. I think it's heading that way, but I don't think they're fully safe as yet.
But why should it be damning against the environment? Liam Livingstone doesn't have a divine right to be in the England squad. It wasn't like he was really tearing up trees massively when he got dropped. And actually, the person who's come in and taken his place, Will Jacks, is doing a better job at the moment. He's doing a great job in that role. Pretty much, you can't have both of them in the side, I would imagine. It's one or the other. And as you say, you're not a huge fan of Livingstone. It's funny that he's coming out with this now, because he's probably accepted that he's not going to be an international player anymore. But this kind of thing happens the whole time, doesn't it? Player gets dropped and player's not happy with it.
Yeah, but this is exactly my point. It's not about him getting dropped. I agreed with him being dropped. I thought he got far too many opportunities. When you put the question to me last summer, have we got the best out of him? My view was very clear. He hasn't got the best out of himself. He was as early as 2024. He actually captained. I think and I spoke about the character in that. But if you look at the particular ways to deal thing, by the way, he was your contracted player as well. He's got no divine right, or no one's got a divine right to be in the team. But if you drop a player, the least the player needs is, what does he need to do to get back in? At least you can do for him is have a conversation with him, saying stuff like, "Oh, I've got 100 more things to do than speak to you." That is what I'm talking about. And from a coaching point of view, as a player, whether you're senior or not senior, when you're struggling, you need repetition, you need coaching, and you want to hit balls, you want to do stuff, and if coaches are not providing that, well, then that is their job. So and like I said, he's not. If this was completely out of the blue, and I hadn't heard other players have similar experiences and say similar things, I'd be a little bit more, okay, let's see how it plays out. But I think, and listen, people sort of being dropped and then talking about it, I wish, and this is where leadership comes in, some of these people actually spoke about this in a bit more of a balanced manner while they're in the team, so they can actually get the things to change. But everything we've heard about this environment has been that it's a very difficult place for people to actually speak what they're actually feeling, and they've got to sort of go about it in a particular way. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure over the next few weeks on the environment because of this interview. Because, like I said, I know there's a few other players that are contemplating speaking as well.
Now, he was allowed to speak because he's no longer part of the setup, right? But the ECB initially decided to ban all of the players who played in the Ashes from speaking at the county media days. The county media days are done every year to build up to the new season. There's a good chance to speak to England players and get their thoughts on the winter. Now, this is unheard of. The ECB initially decided, right, we're not going to let these guys speak because we don't want them talking about the Ashes. And then there was a little bit of a pushback against that, and they reversed their decision and they allowed them to speak. So we heard from Ollie Pope, for example, recently. It was quite an interesting interview as well. And he said, they were they do want to be liked, they want to be likable, but, they didn't know how to do it basically, or they weren't able to do it, amongst other things. But just the fact that they tried to do it and then reversed it and everyone knows about it. I mean, is this like a big own goal, or can you see why they made that decision in the first place?
No, there's no justification for that decision at all. And this is my point about this management, this whole setup. These are not one-offs. Let's just, because of this now, naturally your instinct's going to be, what are they hiding? Because also this winter, they lied about, Rob Key lied on an interview around the whole Harry Brook and the team situation. They hid it. Harry Brook, as the England captain, lied himself in an interview and then had to backtrack. So this is a bit worrying because it's starting to become a trend where they are. I feel like they are just they've put themselves in this place where them and the media are starting to clash, and when that starts to happen, the journalists, as cheerleaders as they can be, if they get if they don't get the access and if they don't get their way, there's a lot of things that they see on tour and they're aware that they don't report on. So I don't know what they were thinking, and I find it very surprising that. I mean, I'd love to know who made that decision, because the fact that they thought that that was going to hold in any way just shows that they're a little bit off the mark when it comes to reality. And yeah, they've had to backtrack. And the interviews, the start of the press days are great, because it's like you say, you get, it's in a way a separation from the winter. It's like a line, it's a final sort of line in the sand in the winter. And then you sort of crack on, and once in a week's time, it's literally forgotten. Like, it's a really, and journalists like it because they get to get access to England players all in one day, lots of things to write. And some of the interviews were brilliant. I mean, I don't know if you saw or if you've read up on some of the interviews. I thought Gareth Batty was brilliant. I've got to say, the more I hear from him, the more I think he cannot be far away if there's an opening point of view. I mean, it'll literally be Surrey takeover. But also the players, Rory Burns. Did you see Rory Burns' interview?
Yes, I saw quotes of it. Yeah, remind me.
The point about, I mean, he was trying to make a point about, again, the England setup, and I think that's the theme you're going to see throughout all the press days. I think there is a real divide between the England team and the county setup. I think the county setup, people feel very disrespected. I think I honestly not sure how, and I think we're going to talk about it. I'm not sure how this England setup can carry on, because there is a real divide now, and people feel very disrespected. But Rory Burns was talking about how, as a batter, you have to be top of the run scorer, then you got an opportunity. And he said there's still a little bit of that, but also there's an advantage. You could play a couple of nice shots and it go on Instagram and get picked from that. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Just the way he put it across, I thought was really, really good. And that's what you get out of the press days. You get some fun quotes like that.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Actually, that was the quote that I saw as well. He's obviously got a bit about him as Rory, and he can speak freely now that he's not involved as well. And just talking about this PR battle, right? What I don't understand is this setup, this squad, they were winning the PR battle early. Everyone was loving Bazball vibes. Everyone's like right into it, and somehow they've gone from that to just making a succession of mistakes, as you say, covering things up, making decisions like this to ban players from speaking, then changing their minds. Now, I don't think this is all on Rob Key and Brendan McCullum. I think a lot of these decisions, you have to look also at the people above them, your chief executives. You have to look at the head of comms. These are collective decisions. And I don't think actually that the cricket people involved here, Rob Key and Brendan McCullum, I don't think they've been served very well.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you said it, because if I'd have said it, you'd have said, what problem do I have with Richard Thompson? So that's why I didn't talk about it. I mean, the reality is, I mean, this is his background. So these monumental failures, let's be right, that's what they are. The cover up in New Zealand, letting the England captain in front of the camera and lying, that sort of stuff. It's the backroom stuff. And there's been a lot of changes at the ECB. And there's a bit of an MNC Saatchi takeover. The new comms lady is an ex-employee. Then that went to the government. You know what? I actually think that they are trying to be smart. They're trying to be too smart, and they're getting caught out in that. That's what I sense. And to be honest, generally, as organisations around PR stuff, my experience is that you've got few experts who try and be a little bit too smart, and there was no way some of these things were going to fly. trying to shut off cricket journalists. Cricket's a very small game. It's not, it's not government where there'll be a new story literally an hour later and you can just get away from it. And I just feel like, I think the comms person, the new comms person's clearly had a say in that decision, because what they have is, I think they're finishing the review and they're going to get Gold and Key are going to front up. So just to give a bit of a where I think this has come from is what they were thinking is that before the players speak, the CEO and the director of cricket should front up and deal with it all, and trying to protect the players a little bit. But because of the narrative that is there with this England management and this England team, what it's ended up creating is that, Key and McCullum, and, they don't want, they're hiding something, and, they think they're bigger than everyone, and they're not giving us access on our most important days of the year. So it's just a miscalculation, but a miscalculation that's, again, hurt them.
You say you think that McCullum and Key is still up in the air. I think they're going to carry on personally, and I also, I'm not dead against that idea at all. I think they're going to continue in their post. We'll see, I guess, in the next few weeks. If they do, what needs to change for them to continue and find some success again? Do you think they need to revert to a more traditional way of doing things rather than trying to reinvent the wheel like they did initially, but then they came unstuck?
Yeah, well, I don't think it'd be weeks. I think we're days away. I understand there's a meeting this coming week, which will be the make or break. For what it's worth, I think I agree. I think it's heading that way, that they're going to stay. Whether I agree with that or not is irrelevant. And if they were to stay, what do they need to do? And this is where I think the tricky part is. And this is what I've been talking about for the last 2 years when you've been telling me about, I'm a basketball hater. When you go this extreme, the biggest challenge is when it doesn't go well is where does it go? Because your messaging to players, to young players, has been so like, right, go out and whack it. What that has done as, mess with their mindsets and mess with their techniques. I think a reset is needed. I'm not going to be one of them, you don't want to change, you don't want to lose what good bits you have. The reality is you've not beaten India and Australia. So, I know you'll remember a last day run chase somewhere in England. I don't. England, Australia and India, not only, have we not won, at times we've not even competed. So I think that realization that we're not going to beat the best teams playing in these extreme ways, actually what we can sit down and go, some of our players have shown that they've got some serious ability, which is what, again, we've argued on, because I remember the episode with Lawrence, you were like, well, I don't think they're that good. I actually think they are very good. I think they've been too simplistic, and in a way they've tried to cut corners because maybe they don't believe that they're that good. So they've tried to sort of go away from, the simples of the game. For me, I think the basics of the game remain the same. And what they need to do... Give me 1 second.
We'll keep this one in, keep this bit in. Basically, his daughter Miha's just opened the door and popped in and tried to disrupt us.
Please.
But have you left her on the balcony, mate? It looks like you pushed her
I'm
out
on the balcony. I've been pushed onto the balcony. I think, listen, for me, the simple basics of the game is what they need to simplify back to. While, letting their individual abilities take over, I think understanding the game a little bit better, making better decisions is what they need to do. And I think that will come with less of the pointless chat, less of the, running towards danger, all of this stuff, and more of, right, where we are, let's appreciate where we are. We're under pressure. That's fine. We've got good players. We're going to simplify the game. When you're batting there, you've got to try and score big hundreds. Go back to simple things, that type of stuff, that type of language. And what that will start to do is just everyone to go, We don't need to be this, us against the media. We don't need to be this. Everything we do is right. Just be a little bit of humility when it comes to the game itself. I think things like prep, I think that needs to change significantly. I think there needs to be a big, big change there. You can't just go off to Scotland and have a golf round and turn up in Test cricket and think that you're going to be ready. Respect for county cricket. I think if they start to do things like that, genuinely and authentically, not just saying it, because at the minute, all I read, I don't actually think that they've learned a lot from this winter. And that's why I wouldn't continue. If they genuinely start to understand and believe the things that I've just said, I've got no doubt that they're going to be very, very good. And I've got no doubt that they will go on and achieve a lot. I think it's been a missed opportunity last 4 years because I think international cricket or Test cricket has not been that great. But I think, and we've had some very, very good players, but that's all gone now. It's what we do from now that matters. And from my point of view, I think if both of them can show real humility, it will go a long way. Clearly, Brendan McCullum has a big impact on how people talk and how they behave. It's very, very clear they do. So I think it has to lead from there. Whether he's able to do that or not, I think that's the decision for Richard Gould and Richard Thompson in that room this week.
Okay, let's just move on to the 100 then before we finish. I know we touched on it last week, but we were in the middle of the auction. So let's just quickly revisit that. And once the squads have been finalised, we can have a better, clearer opinion on it, I think. Now, if we look at the men's squads, now I think sort of halfway through, you were very much MI London looked to be the strongest squad. And when I look at this, I think I probably agree. They've got superb options, really. They've got Nicholas Pooran in. They've got very good English talent in the Curran brothers, Will Jacks, Jason Roy, Ollie Stone, James Vince has brought in us a good buy. They've got some power in Sherfane Rutherford, Trent Bolt as well. So, yeah, I agree. They look formidable and strong. Have you changed your opinion on that at all? Do you still think they're the team to beat?
Yeah, I mentioned them as my sort of pick at the time. I think I'm going to put a little bit of a change, but not massively. I still think they are top, but I think Southern Brave, I went through their squad, and the two young boys that they've picked at the end, Rue and Faulkner. For me, I think that's made a big shift for me in them. And then getting Tom Abel for 31,000 as well. The mix, so where I see MI London is a very experienced team. They are, people that have been around for a very, very long time. I look at, Jason Roy at 31,000. It's a very strong team. The overseas are strong. The English players, they've gone heavy on the Curran brothers, Will Jacks, Vince. So I think they are covered in a lot of facets. When I look at Southern Brave, I see the experience, I see the overseas, I see the mix, and then I see the two young boys. And that, I think, I just starting to feel like Southern Brave just ahead of MI for me from when we spoke about it last week. And God, I am looking forward to watching Thomas Rue play. I cannot wait to watch his career. Both brothers, actually. But I am so looking forward to watch him go about his work this year in the 100.
Yeah, and Caleb Faulkner as well, actually. He got 100 in the Under-19s World Cup in the final, didn't he? Good Middlesex lad, so I want him to do really well. Well done him for going into the 100. Yeah, I agree with that, mate. I mean, when I look at the squads this year, I actually think there's not much in it. I think the squads all look quite sort of similar level. I think they've really sort of narrowed. But to try and find a differential, I always look at the bowling attacks. So, yeah, MI London looking good. I agree with you, Southern Brave. I think that's a really good... When you look at what they've got, you've got Jofra Archer, you've got Adil Rashid, and you've got Chris Jordan, and you've got Luke Wood. That is four very, very solid, two gun T20 bowlers and a couple of very, very good ones as well. I think maybe a little bit of a worry is is that the next lot of spin, the bit of a strange final overseas choice, Nikhil Chaudhry, they got in the Australian guy, plays for Hobart Hurricanes, Australian Indian. So that would be a slight concern for me. And then the other ones I'm looking at bowling attack wise, and I mentioned this last week, Manchester Supergiants. I just like the look of their English attack, Josh Tongue, Sonny Baker, Gus Atkinson, and then I really like the look of their two spinners, Noor Ahmed and Liam Dawson.
See, don't you think that is so samey? Tongue, Atkinson, Baker. I just feel like I just don't see enough variety there. But on the Southern Brave, you missed out Jordan, and then as a replacement in the squad, Worrell. I like Southern Brave. But I can see where you're coming from. They've got the young talent, the young bowlers in Super Giants. I just feel a little bit samey there.
Yeah, I get your point. All right arm seamers, they'll have to have a bit of variety. I just think they've done well. Well, Tongue and Baker have shown what they can do in this tournament. They'll be confident. Atkinson, I think there might be question marks over him in this format, so let's see what he can do. But yeah, you're right. Daniel Worrell too. So that is Southern Brave. That is a very, very good 5-man attack. They might not even need much more than that. In terms of the women, so last week, I believe, what did you say last week? I can't remember. What was the women's side that you picked out? We did. You know what? We did. You know what? We didn't actually. We didn't actually pick out our teams. Yeah, no, we didn't pick our teams. So listen, let's do that now then. So I'll go first. So I'm looking at this, and I'm actually really liking the look of London Spirit. I touched on them last week, but they've gone for just experienced all-rounders, and they've got a plethora of them. They've got Marizanne Kapp, Grace Harris, who's an absolute match winner, Deandra Dottin, Nadine de Klerk. I mean, that is 4 really good, proper international all-rounders. Not a whole load around them, which is a bit of a worry, but I think they've got Charlie Dean there as well, Mahika Gore, who's a good young seamer. I think they look strong, but they've gone very much down the sort of CSK route of, experience.
Yeah, I like Trent Rockets. Beth Mooney, Nat Silverbrunt, Ash Gardner, Sophia Dunkley. I like the look of Trent Rockets actually, and very batting. Lot of all rounders, and I think the overseas batting. I think from following the game, I think it will make a big difference. They've got they've got Georgia Adams, who's been a consistent performer in domestic cricket for relatively good price. So yeah, I like the look of Trent Rockets.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. They've got some really big name players there. I think I'll be a bit worried about their depth slightly. And then one more that I'm going to chuck in there. If we're talking about bowling attacks, then Southern Brave men look good. Southern Brave women look very good. This is a proper bowling attack. You've got Lauren Bell, Issy Wong as your seamers.
Tilly 14.
Tilly Courtine-Coleman, who's super talented young left arm spinner. Sarah Glenn, who is a current international leg spinner. So that's a lovely 4-pronged attack there. They've got some good batters. Jemima Rodriguez, Laura Wolvart, Maya Boucher. Lizelle Lee. I think actually, you know what? We could have a Southern Brave double this year, mate. Looking at that.
Yeah, and they're always up there in both men's and women's competition. So, you wouldn't rule it out. A very experienced sort of franchise in GMR as well. GMR are very, they've got teams all over the world, very professional in the way they go about it as well. I met them here at the ILT 20. I'm very impressed with how they go about running their franchises as well. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting August for English cricket. With all the owners and a bit more razzmatazz around the tournament. Brilliant for the players, by the way. I think if there's one thing out of the 100 and the auction stuff, especially the women players, you look at the salaries and stuff, which is great going up, but just generally, someone like James Cole's life-changing sum of, really big difference, for him. I hope this is it's something that he can just springboard from, because, from a financial point of view, that really secures him. I hope he can use that money to invest in himself. Really, do what English players haven't done so much in the past, but it's very normal in Australia. Have your own sort of trainer, put a real support system around you. And that, I know it happens in India now as well, because the money that the players make, they invest a lot of that back into themselves and the support network around them. So I think it's great for the players, and I hope that they grab this opportunity.
Yeah, it's going to be the most eagerly anticipated 100 season ever. Cannot wait for it to start. Thanks, mate. Apologies, anyone. They had a little bit of background noise. It wasn't too bad, but he got kicked out onto the balcony, which is probably better for everyone involved, especially his family. Maybe you should stay there, mate, for a few hours.
What was the sounds like?
No, just the odd car going past. And don't worry about it. It was absolutely fine. Right, we're going to be back next week, of course. We've got lots to talk about because the county season is almost upon us. The IPL is almost upon us. There is shed loads going on as ever. It's a really exciting time of year in the cricket calendar. And we'll be addressing it next week. We'll see you then.